The voicemail from Mom was chipper, almost sing-song. "Natalie, sweetheart. Your father and I have a meeting at Horizon Lending tomorrow at 10. We need you there. It's about refinancing the house. Nothing to worry about. Just bring your ID and maybe a pay stub. See you then." I played it back twice, my stomach sinking with each listen. I was sitting in my corner office at Whitmore Investments, where I'd worked for the past 3 years as a junior portfolio manager. Through my window I could see the financial district stretching out below me. Somewhere in one of those buildings was Horizon Lending, where my parents apparently planned to involve me in their financial decisions without actually asking first. I texted back, "What's this about? Why do you need me at a mortgage meeting?" The response came immediately, "Just administrative stuff. Nothing major. But we really need you there. Family helps family." There was the phrase that had defined my relationship with my parents for the past decade. My older brother Kyle was the golden child. He'd gone into sales, married young, had 3 kids and lived in a house Mom loved to show off in photos. "Kyle's doing so well," she'd say at every family gathering. "VP of regional sales. Company car. Bonus structure." What she didn't mention was that Kyle's salary was average, his bonus structure paid out rarely, and he was leveraged to his eyeballs in debt. But he looked successful, and for my parents that was what mattered. I was the backup plan. The reliable one. 29 years old, single, still figuring things out according to family narrative. I worked in finance, which they understood as something with numbers, and lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment downtown. "Natalie's doing fine," Mom would say with a tone that really meant adequately. Not everyone can be a superstar like Kyle. For years I'd been the family's financial support system. Kyle's down payment when his credit wasn't good enough, $18,000 from me. Dad's business loan cosign when the bank rejected him, $25,000 exposure. Mom's medical bills, $12,000. Kyle's kids' private school tuition, $8,000 annually for 3 years. Always with the understanding that family helps family, and they'd pay me back when things stabilize. Things never stabilized, and I never got paid back. What they didn't know, what nobody in my family knew, was that my grandmother had left me a trust fund when she died 12 years ago. The terms were strict. I couldn't access it until I turned 28, and it was managed by an independent trustee who reported to no one but me. My 28th birthday had been 14 months ago. The trust had matured at $2.7 million. I'd kept it completely secret, watching my family treat me like their personal bank while sitting on wealth they couldn't imagine. I'd been waiting to see if they'd ever stop. If they'd ever treat me like a person instead of a resource. That moment never came. I arrived at Horizon Lending at 9:55 a.m., dressed in my work clothes, conservative navy suit, practical heels. The receptionist directed me to a conference room where Mom and Dad were already seated with a loan officer named Thomas Green. "Natalie." Mom jumped up and hugged me. "Thank you so much for coming. This is Mr. Green. He's helping us with our refinance." I shook his hand and sat down. "What exactly is being refinanced?" "Well," Dad said, "the house. We've had some cash flow issues and the mortgage is getting difficult to manage. We're restructuring it to lower the monthly payment." "How much do you owe?" Dad and Thomas exchanged glances. "Currently about $480,000, Thomas said. "The property is worth approximately $550,000, so there's equity. But your parents' credit has taken some hits recently, and their debt-to-income ratio is concerning. Some medical bills went to collections," Mom said quickly. "And your father's business had a rough quarter. Nothing we can't fix, but the banks are being picky." "Which is where you come in," Thomas said, smiling at me. "Your parents mentioned you work in finance and have been very supportive of the family. We're looking at a co-signed refinance that would help them qualify." My chest tightened. "A cosign?" "Just a formality," Dad said. "You wouldn't actually be responsible for anything. We just need someone with good credit and stable income to strengthen the application. That's not how co-signing works. If you default, I'm liable for the entire debt." "We're not going to default," Mom said, laughing like I'd told a joke. "We've owned this house for 30 years. We just need help with the paperwork." Thomas pulled out a folder. "I have the preliminary application here. We'd need your income information, employment verification and credit authorization. With your co-signature, Your parents could qualify for a 30-year refinance at 4.3%. Monthly payment would drop from $3,400 to about $2,600. What happens to my credit if they miss payments? They won't miss payments, Mom said firmly. But hypothetically. Thomas looked uncomfortable. Hypothetically, any late payments or defaults would appear on your credit report. You'd be equally responsible for the debt. Our daughter will guarantee it. Mom said proudly, as if offering me up was some kind of gift. She's always been so responsible. This is exactly the kind of thing she's good at. I looked at the paperwork Thomas had spread across the table. Standard refinance application. Cosigner agreement. Credit authorization form. All with my name already typed in. You filled this out already? I asked. Before asking me? We knew you'd help, Dad said. You always do. That's what family means. Family means assuming I'll take on $500,000 in debt exposure? Don't be dramatic, Mom said. You're not taking on anything. You're just helping us qualify. I stood up. I need to think about this. There's nothing to think about, Dad said, irritation creeping into his voice. We need this done by Friday or we lose the rate lock. Just sign the papers, Natalie. I'm not signing anything today. Mom's expression shifted from cheerful to cold. After everything we've done for you. We raised you, educated you, supported you. And you can't do this one thing. I've given you tens of thousands of dollars over the years. None of it paid back. That wasn't loans, that was family support, Dad said. This is different. How is it different? Because we're asking properly this time. Mom's voice rose. Through official channels. The legal paperwork. We're treating you like an adult. By filling out applications without my permission? Thomas cleared his throat. Perhaps everyone should take a moment. No, Dad said. We don't need a moment. Natalie needs to decide if she's part of this family or not. I looked at him. At Mom, her face flushed with anger. At Thomas, uncomfortable witness to family dysfunction. I'll give you my answer by Thursday, I said. That's not good enough, Mom said. We need this done now. Then you'll have to find another cosigner. I grabbed my bag and walked out, their voices rising behind me in argument. Back at my office, I pulled up my trust fund portfolio on my secure terminal. The account had grown to $2.9 million in the past 14 months. Good market performance, solid dividend reinvestment. My trustee Harold Chin had done excellent work. I called him. Natalie, good to hear from you. How can I help? I need information on my parents' financial situation. Specifically, their mortgage status and any other debts. That's outside our usual scope, but I can pull credit reports if you authorize it. May I ask why? They want me to co-sign a refinance. I need to know what I'm actually looking at. I'll have a report to you by end of day. The report arrived at 4:47 p.m. I opened it in my office, door closed. The picture was worse than I'd thought. Mom and Dad's mortgage was $480,000, but they hadn't made a full payment in 8 months. They were in default. Pre-foreclosure notices had been sent. They had 90 days to cure the default or the house would go to auction. They also had $73,000 in credit card debt across 9 cards, all in collections. A home equity line of credit for $60,000, maxed out and delinquent. 2 car loans totaling $48,000, both 60 days past due. Total debt, nearly $700,000. Total monthly income based on Dad's business and Mom's part-time work, approximately $4,800. They were drowning. And they'd wanted to drag me down with them. Thursday morning I called Thomas Green. Mr. Green, this is Natalie Morris. I'm calling about my parents' refinance application. Yes, hello. Have you made a decision? I'm declining to co-sign. Silence. Then, I see. May I ask why? I pulled their credit report. They're $700,000 in debt and in pre-foreclosure. Co-signing would be financial suicide. Your parents didn't mention you'd have access to that information. My parents didn't mention a lot of things. Like the fact that they're 3 months from losing the house regardless of this refinance. More silence. That's accurate. The refinance was a long shot. I was honest with them about their chances, but they were very insistent that your co-signature would make the difference. It won't. No bank is going to refinance someone this deep in default, cosigner or not. Probably not, he admitted. I'm sorry you were brought into this situation. So am I. Mom called that afternoon, her voice shrill. The lender called. They said you refused to cosign. That's correct. How could you do this to us? We're going to lose the house. You were already going to lose the house. You're in default. You haven't made a full mortgage payment in 8 months. How do you know that? I pulled your credit report. You had no right. I had every right before agreeing to take on your debt. Mom, you owe $700,000. Your income is less than $5,000 a month. The math doesn't work. We just need help getting current. If you co-signed, we could. No bank will approve this refinance. You're too far gone. Your only option is to sell the house and settle what you can. This is our home. He was crying now. We've been here 30 years. You're supposed to help us. I can't help you by destroying my own financial future. What about everything we've done for you? You mean raising me? That was your legal obligation as parents. You don't get a refund. You're heartless, she spat. Kyle would never do this to us. Kyle can't help you. His credit is worse than yours. How dare you? Mom, listen to me. Sell the house. It has equity. Use it to settle your debts and move into something affordable. That's your only option. We're not selling our house. Your father will figure something out. He always does. She hung up. 3 weeks later, I received a call from Harold Chin. Natalie, I have some information you should know. Your parents listed you as a financial reference on several loan applications. They've been using your employment and income information without your authorization. My blood went cold. What kind of applications? Personal loans, credit cards, even another mortgage application with a different lender. They're claiming you'll be guaranteeing the debts. That's fraud. Yes, it is. I've already contacted the lenders and informed them that you haven't authorized any guarantees. But you should file police reports and freeze your credit immediately. They're my parents. And they're committing identity fraud. If you don't stop this now, you could be liable for debts you never agreed to. I hung up and stared at my computer screen for a long time. Then I filed the reports. The police detective called 2 days later. Ms. Morris, this is Detective Sarah Wu. I'm investigating the identity fraud reports you filed. We've confirmed that loan applications were submitted with your information without authorization. We'd like to proceed with charges, but we need your cooperation. The suspects are my parents. I'm aware. I know this is difficult, but fraud is fraud regardless of relationship. What happens if I press charges? They'd be arrested, potentially face jail time and fines. More importantly for you, it creates a legal record that you weren't involved, protecting you from liability. And if I don't? You risk being held responsible for any debts they've fraudulently attached to your name. And they'll likely continue the behavior. I took a deep breath. Proceed with charges. 2 weeks after that, I was back in my office when my secretary buzzed. Ms. Morris, there's a man here to see you. Says he's your brother. Kyle. I hadn't spoken to him since this started. Send him in. Kyle walked in looking rough. Dark circles under his eyes, shirt wrinkled. You had Mom and Dad arrested, he said without preamble. They committed fraud. They're desperate. The house is going to auction next month. I know. And you don't care? You're just going to let them become homeless. They have options. They can sell before auction and keep some equity. They chose not to. Because you won't help them. I've given them over $60,000 in the past 5 years, Kyle. None paid back. Now they've committed fraud using my identity. I'm done. That's so typical of you, he said bitterly. Always acting superior because you work in finance. Always judging everyone else's choices. I'm not judging anyone. I'm protecting myself from people who see me as a bank account. We're family. Family doesn't commit fraud, Kyle. Family doesn't pledge other people's assets without permission. You could fix all of this if you wanted to. You just won't because you're selfish. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I opened my desk drawer and pulled out my trust fund portfolio statement. The one that had arrived yesterday showing the current balance. $3.1 million. I slid it across the desk. Kyle's eyes went wide as he read it. His face went from confused to shocked to furious. You have $3 million, he whispered. You've had this money the whole time and you watched them struggle? I watched them make terrible financial decisions and then try to drag me into their mess. There's a difference. How long have you had this? The trust matured 14 months ago. But you know what's interesting? Even when I had no money, when I was giving them everything I'd saved, they still treated me like I was failing. Like I was the boring, adequate one who should be grateful to help. Because we thought you were struggling too. If we'd known. If you'd known, you would have bled me dry faster. This is exactly why I kept it secret. Kyle stood up, shaking with anger. You're dead to me. To all of us. I was already dead to you. I was just useful. He stormed out. The house went to auction 3 weeks later. Mom and Dad moved into a small rental apartment, their credit destroyed. The criminal charges were dropped in exchange for them entering a debt counseling program and agreeing to never use my information again. Kyle stopped speaking to me entirely. Extended family took sides, most of them siding against me. I was alone at Christmas for the first time in my life. But I was free. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is your mother. I hope you're happy. You destroyed this family over money. You'll regret this someday when you have no one. I blocked the number and looked out my office window at the city below. My portfolio statement had arrived at exactly the right moment. Their house had gone to auction. And I'd learned the most valuable lesson of all. Sometimes the people who demand you prove your love with money are the ones who never loved you at all. They just loved what they thought they could take.